So if you want to rewatch it or if you want to share it with your colleagues, then feel free to do so. We are going to send this to you after the webinar. At the end of the session, we will definitely answer your questions. We have this Q&A little section down in the, I don't know, menu bar. So there you can ask your questions, but already on the registration sheet, we gave you the opportunity to ask, and we actually received quite a lot of very relevant questions. So we try to implement these into our presentation, and we'll also cover a few at the end of the session. And of course, in the chat box or in the Q&A part, you can continuously ask us, and at the end, we will definitely answer these. So now I would like to ask you, as a little warm-up exercise, let's say, to tell us which country you're from and what age groups you are working with here in the chat box. So I will give you a few minutes to do that, and we are super excited to hear more about you. So let's see the chat box. What I see: Hungary, Croatia, Turkey, Dubai, lots of people from Turkey.
Pakistan, Hungary, of course, Croatia.
From Peru, living in Greece. Belgium, amazing. So we really are here from all over the world. This is super exciting. So let's get it started. First of all, let me introduce myself. My name is Anna Boldog, and I am currently responsible for customer success here at BOOKR. And I've been with BOOKR class, our English as a second language or English as a foreign language product, since day one. Actually, it was me and my colleague Kinga, who's also here, who started to work on this product. And ever since that, and even before, I was in charge of content creation, of app development, of international partnerships. And now my role is customer success, because as we have more and more customers, it's very, very important for us to serve you as well as possible, to create extra materials for you, to understand what makes you happy, what makes you satisfied. So this is what I'm working on at the moment. And it's also important because now you're all here, and if you have any feedback at any point of time about what we are doing, about the application, then don't hesitate to reach out to us. And I have Kinga here today. Kinga, could you also say a few words about yourself?
Yes, of course. Hi, everyone. It's really nice to see you here. I'm not sure if you can see it, but you are more than 100 participants, so I feel honored. I'm part of the BOOKR Kids team. I've been working for the company for almost 4 years now. I'm a content creator, actually, in a way that I'm responsible for the curriculum, what goes into our interactive library, what kind of books, what kind of stories, what is their proficiency level, how difficult they are language-wise. We simplify texts. And we also create the follow-up activities with my wonderful colleagues. So that's what I do at BOOKR Kids. And I'm also an English teacher, of course. I've been a teacher for like 7 years now. I've worked in different schools, rural elementary, urban high school, bilingual education. I tried many different schools, and I'm sure you can relate as well. Having a professional life that is always changing. So I'm here with you now because I'm very, well, even though I had been in many different schools, there are three things that kept me on track and that are always there for me. Number one, digital classrooms, especially in this pandemic. Number two, storytelling, surprise, surprise. Number three, the students' personal development and helping them to become better people and to be happier with the help of us teachers. So that's what I do.
Thank you so much. And before we actually start, I would like to summarize a bit on what you're going to hear about today. So the main topic of today's event will be how to efficiently implement storytelling into your teaching, let that be online or offline. It's a very special time we are living in at the moment, so we want you to be prepared for both scenarios. And we would like to give you some guidance on how to choose the best books and the right books for your storytelling sessions, and how to use stories in general, and how to spice up the storytelling activities. So Kinga is here to tell about that. Of course, she has a lot of experience as a teacher and as a content creator. And then we would like to show you BOOKR Class, the platform that we are working on. And maybe you're already familiar with it. And we truly hope, and that's what we see from the experience, that you could absolutely use this tool to support your teaching. So I give the word to Kinga, who's going to share some tips and tricks on how to implement storytelling into your teaching sessions.
Yes, and I'm sharing the presentation as well. So this is effective storytelling in English teaching. This is our title. So grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your cat, and let's start with a poll already. Have you ever tried storytelling in class? Let's see your answers here. Option A, yes, I regularly use stories and I want to spice them up. Yes, I have already tried it, but I need some extra help. No, but I would like to start it, so I need the first steps. And no, I'm here to get information and I want to be convinced. So let's see how it goes. All right.
Waiting for some results. This is amazing. This is the first time we're doing polls, and it's super exciting even for us to see how the answers are coming in. We have something like 97 answers already. So let me put an end on it and share the results.
So most of you have already tried it. That's really nice. It's great to see you this motivated, even those who haven't tried yet. So actually, these are the 4 points we're going through with, and we will start with option D. I'm here to get information. So step number one, I'm going to convince the 6% of you to use storytelling. So let's see the first slide here. When I was a trainee teacher, actually, I was really excited to make the world a better place. And I had many plans what to do, what I want with my students. And I just needed a cornerstone in my teaching. And I just needed something that can be the most important part of my teaching and around which I can build everything else. Like, I'm sure you know principled eclecticism, where you can combine everything you like, all approaches, all techniques that answer the needs of your students, which is wonderful, but it's so broad that I just needed something. And I found storytelling here. And there are actually 4 good reasons why to use storytelling and literature in class. Number one, it's a motivating thing to do, because once you say it's story time, your students will be so excited about it, because they know story time from kindergarten, even nursery. So they will get very excited and their affective filter lowers. It means that they will become less stressed and more open to new experiences. So anything that you do after that in the storytelling session will get closer to your students and they will be able to absorb it better. Stories also provide meaningful context because if information is in a story, if you want to teach something, but it's surrounded by actions, it's much better, it's more understandable, and it makes sense more easily than just giving out the rules or telling them what to do, or just giving out a worksheet of verbs rather than teaching it through a story or using some kind of a context for them. Secondly, stories offer natural language that you can work with, and you can actually teach the vocabulary of it or the grammar of it. But it's also great because students can acquire it unconsciously. Basically, it just goes into their heads easily. And stories also improve academic literacy. It means that if you have a story, they will need to make sense of it. They will need to understand it and interpret it and get the message, the essence out of it. And that's actually academic literacy. And they will learn how to learn from stories, how to learn from texts, how to learn on their own from textbooks, which is the basis for higher education, for example. And the same is applicable for higher order thinking skills, because once you read a story, you make your students think, right? You make them reflect on their own lives, on their own actions. They will try to understand what is happening in the story, if it's okay, if it's right, if it's wrong, if they would do something differently. They will think about it critically, right? They will compare and contrast their lives to the protagonist's life, or they will think about the story in numerous different ways, and these all improve their higher order thinking skills. And last but not least, the one I really, really appreciate about stories is the emotional development, which happens throughout storytelling, because every story has a message, or rather, you should pick a story that has a message. And this message, this moral, gives something to your students. It's meaningful. Stories usually are about challenges, problems, difficulties, and they are focused around bravery, persistence, autonomy, problem solving. And while they are reading, your students will learn about these, and they will acquire them, and they will understand more of these situations, more of the word itself. They will also learn about different people, different behaviors, different cultures even, and they become more empathetic, more open, more curious about the world. And this is how stories are changing agents for students, because they change them in a way that they will be able to become bridge builders across cultures, across people, and they will be global citizens in the end. So these are the reasons why you should use storytelling. I hope you got the basic information now, because we are ready to go. Before so if you don't know where to start, like, you know that you want to do some storytelling, but you don't know how to start it, there are two ways to do so. Number one, this is the easy one. We are going to do this together. You ask somebody for a good story to use. So please open your chat and type in a book or a story that you think is great for storytelling, that you have tried, you have heard about it, that it's great, you have seen a video on YouTube, maybe you have heard about colleagues that it's a wonderful story to tell, or maybe you have your child loving this.
Lots of recommendations.
And I cannot see them because I cannot see. Oh,
Room on the Broom, Gingerbread Man, Jack and the Beanstalk, The Farmer and the Beet.
Stone Soup, yes.
Stone Soup. Oh, you see them now. Good.
Yeah, I can. Oh, yeah, The Day the Crayons Quit. That's a nice one. The Great Turnip. I hope you can see it and you're sending it to everybody.
Naughty Koala. Thank you, Fatih.
Treasure Island. Yes.
I feel like everything with animals, it's very good. It's easy to play out with your students.
I was really expecting the Very Hungry Caterpillar here. Oh, the ugly duckling. That's a nice one. I hope you are taking notes now because these are wonderful stories. The dot. Nice. Great. So now you have a bunch of recommendations here. Make sure you put these somewhere. Aesop's fables. Yeah, definitely. All the stories with animals. Alice in Wonderland. That's right. Right. So we have plenty of recommendations. So there's nothing better than sharing, right? Sharing knowledge here. So let's see if you have the hard way and you need to do it in a different way, how you pick a story. What you need to consider when you choose a book. There are 4 criteria that you need to take into consideration. Number 1, you need to pick a general topic and a theme or a topic that is relevant for your students, that is interesting for them and that is age relevant. Then you need to pick a story which has this linear storyline. So it's easy to follow, things happen one after the other. And it's not like the first episode of Game of Thrones where you got totally lost after 10 minutes. So make sure it's easy to understand, easy to follow. Then you need to pick something that has nice illustrations that are enjoyable for your students, because especially with young learners, you know that they are very keen on the pictures and they will just run until they see the picture on the page. So you should definitely want to benefit from that. And last but not least, language use. There are 2 things you need to remember. Number 1, it should be useful. So you should pick a topic that is interesting for them, but not too specific or academic, or if it's about horses, it's not necessarily talks about all the equipment you need for the horses, just the basics. And you need to pick the stories that are relevant in style. So they are not too archaic, for example, they are not too old. These are expressions that they can easily use in real life. So this is number 1, to have relevant vocabulary or relevant language. Number 2 is that it shouldn't be too difficult for them, because if it's too difficult, they won't understand and they will spend so much time stressing about the difficult and new words that they won't enjoy the story. So the story should be always slightly more difficult than they can understand. So they learn a few new words, but not too difficult. And here comes an issue with language use, graded readers, because some might say that students should read original texts. I don't know if you agree or disagree with this, but I definitely disagree. And there are 2 reasons why. Number 1, scientists, researchers prove that it's not true that graded readers, simplified readers are not authentic. They are natural language. They are just easier to understand, but they are still used in everyday language. So it's authentic still, even though it's simplified and easier to read. Number 2, they will provide your students with the authentic reading experience. So when your students will read a story, they will read it as a native, because they will understand the simpler text as a native would read the original one. And if you give your students this authentic reading experience, that they were able to read the whole book in English, even if it's a short story and it's simple, it will motivate them in a way you cannot imagine. They will go home and tell their parents that they read a whole story, a whole book in English. And this generates a feeling of success, motivation, positive attitude, and it will keep your students in the process for a very long time. So use the graded readers. Don't be afraid of simplified texts, because they are really, really worth using. And moving on. What's your role as a teacher? Once you have the book, you need to walk into the classroom, right? So what do you do? How do you start? That's the question. You have to assist the students in this reading process, you need to help them, you need to support them, you need to give some scaffolding for your students. How? First of all, you chose the right book and the right story, which is great for them. Next, you need to tell them some strategies if you want them to read on their own. So, for example, if it's homework, or if you want them to read a book for a test or an exam or just for fun, but you would like to get something out of it, you need to tell them that it's okay if they don't know all the words. They shouldn't use a dictionary all the time and have the story and the dictionary side by side, reading both of them at the same time, because they won't have the flow of reading and they won't get the authentic reading experience. So there are some very basic strategies you need to teach them and explain to them that reading is not about understanding every single word. It's about making sense of a story. And last but not least, you need to assist them throughout the reading, and that's the most efficient you can do. When you are with your students and you read with your students, language learning becomes more effective. And you start with the title and you read the title and you ask them what they think about the story. What will the story be? And then you read the first few lines and then you ask them what if they like the protagonist, what they think of the little girl who is walking in the forest. Why is her name Little Red Riding Hood? And you show the picture. What can you see in the picture? And then you read on, and then you ask your students about what might happen next. And this is what we call dialogic reading. And this is one old but gold technique. So if you want to read with your students together, which is the most effective, and I strongly advise you to do so if you start storytelling in class, then you can engage your students and you can make sure that it works out well and fine with dialogic reading, turning storytelling into a conversation, asking the right questions. So I have a poll question for you, because as it is an old but gold technique, I'm sure you know about it. So let's see how many of you have tried it already, and if it was conscious, so you knew what kind of questions you can ask, or if it was like more accidental and you had some questions in mind, but you didn't know exactly why you asked those questions, or you might have used it, but you don't know for sure, or you have never used dialogic reading. And yeah, there are only a few people who has never tried it.
I'm going to wait for a few more seconds to share the results with you too, in case
Most of
someone
you,
still wants to.
This was actually my prediction, that most of you have used it, but you didn't really know what you were doing, but I'm sure you did great. So yeah, it is usually like a tradition, like we do it at home as well when we are children. We use dialogic reading, and it is extremely useful when you want to engage your students. Why? Because you make them active. They become active participants of the classroom. They will get involved in the lesson, in the story more. And also, they need to tell something. So they become more communicative. And these are meaningful questions because the stories are exciting, right? So yeah, most of you are into dialogic reading, and I'm very happy to hear that. Yeah, I'm going to have a workshop on these different techniques, also dialogic reading, on the ITAFL Hungary's Winter Warmer conference. This is I think the 19th of February. I'm going to send the link for you if you're interested in a more detailed description of teaching techniques for storytelling. But for now, let's see some other ways of engaging your students and making the most out of storytelling. If once you have finished your story, either you read it in a dialogic way with your students, either in any different way, or you just had them read the story, you can also ask them to retell the story from another perspective, which is not too demanding because you already have the text, you already have the story, they can work together, but they need to transform it a bit and they need to rely on another character. They need to think about it. They need to empathize with another person, but it's not too challenging language-wise. Then you can ask them to create alternative scenarios, and this works like magic with teenagers because they twist the whole story. They change the protagonist, they change the setting, they change the place. Imagine Little Red Riding Hood in space. Or imagine that in the stone soup, it's not a stone soup, but rather a pizza. So you can ask your students to go creative and try to change parts of the story in a way that they get something fun out of it. And in this case, when they create the alternative scenarios, they will become the storytellers. And that's the greatest success you can get from storytelling, when your students want to tell their own story. So put it on your list, definitely. Role play, I think this is a wonderful way to start communication, I would say, even with younger students, because role play's first step is to read the line you are assigned to and try to pronounce it the way it is supposed to. So it is a very basic storytelling, but you involve the student, they will need to tell something and they will be part of the story. And then, and as time goes on and they become more confident and more proficient, they will rely less and less on the text and more on their own personal opinion, maybe, and their own skills. So role play can go from the very beginning, from simple reading to acting out and to a mini school play. For the very young ones, it's arts and crafts, to draw the story as you read it or after you have read it. Make it a comic. For older students, make it an advert. Draw a poster of the wolf and tell why he is so dangerous and put it on the trees in the forest, right? So there are many ways for younger and older students as well. And last but not least, Jolly Joker, the digitalized content. Even if it's a quiz, even if it's a grammar exercise, even if it's a vocabulary learning, if you digitalize the content, you will get more out of it because students are more interested in it. And it's, well, I'm not saying it's the best because there are digitalized contents that are not good quality, but if you are interested in it and you dig into it a bit, then you will be able to do wonderful things and that get your students engaged in the digital content. And as we are BOOKR kids, we have digitalized content for you. So I need to share it with you what we have here, the interactive multimedia library apps. We have one for you, but many of them have the same characteristics. Besides the text, you have optional highlighting. So the students can follow the text, and also they will know where a clause starts and ends, where an expression starts and ends. So they will be able to understand it better. Then you can set authentic narration as well. So it's audio support, quality illustration that supports the text. So maybe they don't understand the word, but they will understand the pictures. And the same goes for the animation, that many books have the animation. So if a student doesn't understand the action happening, they can see the pictures. And actually the visual input, so what you see, and the verbal input, what you hear or read, can pair up. And this is the strongest input you can give, the visual and the verbal together. And there are also sound effects that are extra audio help. And if you don't have enough time to prepare the follow-up activities or games or exercises, you can rely on interactive libraries because they usually offer you extra help there. So yes, and I have a poll question. Oh, so sorry, I already almost forgot what I wanted to tell you. So first of all, interactive multimedia libraries are, number one, they are engaging because of the format, because they are digital. Number two, they help students because, for example, weaker students will rely more on the visual input. And as they become stronger and stronger, they will rely more and more on the text. But as for beginner learners, it's wonderful to have the narration and the illustration and the animation. So they support your students even when you can't be there as a teacher. And last but not least, they are super practical because you don't have to hold the book up and make sure that all your students can see it. You can simply project it. Or if it's remote learning, then you can share the screen and all your students will see your story and they will be on the same page as you. So it's not a problem. And you can do the follow-up games as well, as you can see in the picture here. And I have a poll question for you. I hope we inspired you to try storytelling in class, and I'm curious which option seems the best for you. What would you do with your students? You would give an interactive book as homework for your students because it's digital, it's read out loud. You would prefer to try a role play in pairs. You would ask your students to work in groups and prepare a comic, for example, or a school play, or you would like to try this dialogic reading where you ask the right questions the right time and then you walk your students through the story, or you would prefer to have some fun with the whole group and twist the whole story and turn it upside down and alter the scenes. Yeah, I can see that many of you go for the group work. Yeah, I love group work, especially if your students know how to work in groups. That's wonderful. If not, then you have a hard time teaching them, but it is truly worth the patience and the effort. And then you said dialogic reading. I think it's wonderful. And role play. Yeah, homework is underrated here, but I understand why actually, because sharing the reading experience is the best. So thank you very much for your ideas. Thank you very much for participating. And I'm giving back the word to Anna, and I'm stopping the screen share.
Thank you, Kinga. Thank you for these insights and practical tips. I think, or I find it personally very, very useful. And from what I saw from the chat is that this is something we might agree on. I especially like that many of you shared ideas from your own experiences, books that you recommend or ways that you use storytelling. I think that this is probably our main purpose, to bring together this community and to share and interact and to give you the chance of interaction and networking and discussing your experience and making your teaching more successful. So it's really incredible to see what's happening on the chat side. And now that Kinga gave all these ideas and she introduced interactive books a bit to you, I would like to introduce BOOKR Class, the application that we are working on for almost 4 years now. So BOOKR Class is an app specifically created for English as a second language or English as a foreign language teaching. And it is based on storytelling. So we offer hundreds of interactive stories to children and a teacher's dashboard for the teachers where they can track the students' reading habits, they can assign titles to them. And this way, as the last poll said, they can spice up a bit their classes, they can give more engaging homework and so on. Let me share my screen to show you what we are building. and I hope that you will like it. So this application is BOOKR Class, as I said, and the new version that you see, or the version that you see on the screen, was launched last July. As I said, we were already working on this product for a long time, but last July we completely reworked it, and that's what you see here. Ever since that, we continuously add new titles. At the moment, there's around more than 600 books in this library. There are also flashcard sets and around 2,400 educational games. What I think is very important, or at least whenever I talk to a teacher or a school, they always raise this question: where or how is it available? BOOKR Class is an application that can be downloaded on Android and iOS devices, mobile phones and tablets, and Windows and Mac computers. So you can go on our website or on the app stores, download the application. And the good news is that we listen to your feedback, and we are creating the browser-based version at the moment. So you will be able to reach the app soon without an app, but just by going on your browser on our website. You can already see some of the content that I'm showing you here. These books are created for children between 4 to 14. So basically from kindergarten to 8th grade, you can very confidently use these titles. As for proficiency level, we target, or we go from A1 to B2, according to the CEFR level. So from beginner to intermediate readers, you will find something in the library. Every title is aligned with the Common European Framework of Reference, the CEFR, and they all have Lexile scores too. So you as an English teacher can really know what's the best or the most relevant content for your children that's challenging enough, but not too difficult for them to read. In the library, we have books that are created by our educational team, written and edited specifically to fit the needs of the language learners. And we also work together with very well-known publishing houses such as Oxford University Press, Moomin, White Star Publishing, some American publishers like Albert Whitman or Blue Apple Books. So you really find a very big range and in the app, and the very diverse content, even songs, nursery rhymes, classic, modern literature, civilization, content and language integrated learning. And if you're missing anything, then let us know because we are really happy to receive some book recommendations. The first time you or the student enters the application, there are a few actions that they can do. One, they can choose their interest, and then it of course helps the system to know what kind of books to recommend to the student. And they can also test their knowledge with a placement test, which is offered by Lexile as well. And this placement test helps them to navigate to the best matching level in the library. So if the student does these two things, then they can make sure that their reading experience is much more personalized and they are taken to the right level. I am usually taken to level 1, which means that I am a beginner reader. We divided the library into 6 levels based on the recommended age group and the proficiency. So on level 1, you would find much simpler stories, shorter sentences, the most basic vocabulary, and of course, a lot of nursery rhymes and songs to get the children familiar with the language. These are really most of these books are for very beginner learners. So you really can start it even when the students don't have any knowledge of English, or maybe they don't even read yet. And then as the levels go higher and higher, the stories get a bit more complex, the sentences get longer, of course, the vocabulary changes. However, the vocabulary might return from book to book because, of course, we would want to expand what they know on that given topic. And then by the end of the library, we reach more classic books and more civilizational materials and more content and language integrated learning. So this is a quick overview of the application. Here up there, you can see different menus. The app itself is quite easy to navigate, so it's not really something that you can where you can make a mistake. Here you see all books, so every single book in the library that you can find. You as a teacher can assign books to your students. This is what you find here under My Books. You can, the system recommends books to the students based on their interest, favorites. The kids can add books to their favorites, and they can also continue reading books that they started but haven't finished. And one feature that I think is very important is the offline reading option. It means that if you once downloaded the app and downloaded a couple of books, as long as you have a valid subscription, you can reach these books offline. So in many cases, in our experience, the connection is not always good in the school or at home because they are using it in rural areas or in very difficult circumstances, or the kids have a more difficult socioeconomic background. And in these cases, it's best to just download these books and then you can reach them without an internet connection. Let's take a look at the book now. There's so many things in the chat and it's very difficult because I don't see it. So I will take a look after. I hope it's nothing urgent. If there is, then let me know, my colleagues, somehow, but I think we can keep going on. So let's take a look at the story because I think that's what's the most exciting about the presentation. We chose Toby's Bad Tooth from level 2. When you open the book, you see some similar book recommendations. So already here, you can give some ideas of your students on what else to read. Here you can see the Lexeo score, 290, and you can also see the number of points that the students can earn by reading this book. So there's a little bit of gamification in here too. Before I start the book, Kinga, if you'd like to say something on how you structured this book, why you chose this topic, then I think it would be very interesting.
Well, yeah, actually, it was my colleague, Shara, who wrote this book, and it's about dental hygiene. As you can guess from the picture, it's Toby's Bad Tooth. And it teaches about why washing or brushing teeth is important and why friends are important and what is dental care in prehistory. And if you look at the picture already, you can see that the topic is very general and very relevant for young learners because it's often a problem, why they don't brush their teeth properly. And also it's in a context and it has the illustrations that are engaging and funny for the students. So yes, and it has a focus which teaches the vocabulary of, like, for example, the toothbrush, the toothpaste, pulling out a tooth, and if it hurts, and how bad it is, and then the word ouch.
Let's take a look.
Toby's Bad Tooth.
Can you hear it?
The rainforest is calm. All the animals are sleeping.
What is that? Oh no, it's getting closer. Help me!
Shouts Toby.
What's wrong? How can we help?
Ask the others.
My tooth hurts. It hurts very badly. Let us look at it. Wow, it looks terrible. I think we will have to pull it out. Ready, steady, go! Ouch!
It's so cute, but at the same time, so painful even to watch. So yeah, dental hygiene and toothache. I think we're all familiar with these problems. So as you can see, BOOKR stories include all features that Kinga mentioned. We have the illustrations that are animated. We have the text, of course, native English narration and text highlighting. And at the end of each book, we have educational games. So let's go there.
Turn the page for some games.
And again, I would like to ask Kinga to say just a few sentences on how we do the games.
Right. We usually have 4 games at the end of each book. One is, at least one of them, is reading comprehension check. So how well they understood the story. It can be the ordering of events, a true or false, a quiz, or a gap filling, anything that's fun, a matching activity. Then there's usually a vocabulary builder activity to teach the target vocabulary of the book. In this case, of course, it's about dental hygiene, but in other cases, it's about feelings, movements, animals. And in this book, after the reading comprehension check and the vocabulary, there's a listening activity, which relies heavily on reading and listening comprehension, because they need to remember the story a bit, and then they need to hear and listen carefully. And last but not least, the 4th activity, or sometimes the 5th, is always a fun activity that has like this extra surprise in the book for all the students, and they are usually based on their the students' visual perception. So how well they can spot differences, find a way out, and sometimes there are cognitive challenges like mathematical problems and rhyming questions, which words rhyme. So it really depends on the text and the story. But in this case, for example, it's a very simple fun activity, and Anna will show you what.
Into the correct order.
Yeah, you didn't hear the beginning, but all descriptions are, or instructions are read aloud. And this is, for
Toby's
example,
tooth hurts.
a nice sequencing
Toby
game.
feels better.
And this is not
They
the right
pull
answer.
out Toby's bad tooth.
There's a lot of repetition in everything,
Toby feels better.
so the kids can get familiar with the pronunciation.
His friends say goodbye.
And there's always some
Fantastic.
positive encouragement for the students.
Ooh.
Let's quickly go through every game before we move
What
forward.
is it? Label the pictures.
A little bit of vocabulary development, as Kinga mentioned.
Toothpaste.
Then the third one,
Listen. Who said what in the story? Ouch, my tooth hurts. It hurts really badly.
some listening comprehension, and of course some reading comprehension too, because you need to understand the story.
Let's pull it out. Ready, steady, go.
And the last game is the entertaining one.
Help clean Toby's teeth.
He really has everything in his mouth.
Wonderful.
Yeah. Woo.
Great. And as in the teacher's dashboard, you're also able to follow the students' results. We're going to take a look at that in a second. And at the end, again, the students receive some recommendations. And if this is the first time they read the story and they read it entirely, they also receive some coins. I mentioned that we also have flashcards in the library, which are very important for vocabulary and development, and I think pronunciation and spelling too. We chose a flashcard set to show you my home. This is on level 1.
My home.
These stats are put together by our educational team as well, and they make sure that the kids get to know every word that needs to be known on that given level. They kind of work as regular flashcards. You can turn them over. You hear the word. That's, I think, the advantage of the digital solution. And there's even one more interesting feature that I would like to show.
House.
You can
House.
listen to it over and over again, and then you can even check your own pronunciation. House.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you, Bunny.
Garden.
Gordon. If my pronunciation is not that good, then the bunny is a little bit less happy with me, but it's still 66%. So this is what you can find in the library. You can go ahead, download it, take a look. We made this book available for everyone, Toby's Bad Tooth, and we also have some other titles that you can check out. I mentioned to you that the game results are visible in the teacher's dashboard. So let's take a quick final look on the teacher's dashboard before we move on to your questions. So this is the teacher's dashboard that is a simple browser-based system. You can, of course, add your students. You can import them in big batches. So don't worry if you have 500 students or 1,000 students, you don't have to add them one by one. You find many valuable information on the books. This definitely helps you to prepare for your classes, to implement them into your curriculum. You find their level, their Lexile score, their recommended age group, the topic, the grammar, the accent even, and word count. So you know approximately the length and the new words. Here you can very easily assign these books. You just click on assign and you choose your students and you just assign the title to them. And you can search very easily. So if you know that you want to teach the passive voice, then you can just filter the books and you see immediately the books that match these criteria. You can even add extra words, dog. Of course, there's not a book with dog and passive voice. That was quite a big challenge to give to the system, but you can mix and match all these filters to find the best books that are matching what you would like to teach. And last but not least, the statistics, which I think is very, very important and relevant for you, where you can filter to a time period. You can see the number of books that the students read per day. You can even see a little leaderboard of your students who read the most. It's very great for competitions or simply if you just want to have a quick overview on who's doing how. And then you can see a detailed statistics about your students. You can see the number of books they finished or started, the number of exercises they completed and they completed correctly. And you can even see the number or the time they spent reading. And this is very useful for the teachers for when they try to understand a bit more the progress of their student, the activities of their student, who to support, who might be actually much more active than you would think. Maybe there are some shy students that you have that are not super active in the class, but then you can see from the statistics that they are reading a lot at home. So this is how this teacher's dashboard with the statistics can help you. You can even see every book that they interacted with in their career. When was the first and last time they opened the book, and so on. We also offer some supporting materials for our teachers. For example, there are many books that have activity tips. Some of you had questions actually about additional exercises. And we are a digital solution, but we understand the importance of using or taking everything off screen and doing offline activities. This is why we provide these activity tips. You can further expand the experience. You can add new exercises for arts and crafts, cognitive skill development, additional vocabulary or language exercises. And at the end of these activity tips, you also find some printable materials. And on a very last note, before we move on to the questions, I would like to share this with you, the teacher's handbook, which I think is our biggest material so far, and we're incredibly proud of it. Our educational team worked a lot to make this as high quality as it is. This includes details about storytelling, how to take advantage of storytelling in your classes, about BOOKR class, its methodology, and how to implement it into your class to improve 21st century skills or communication skills. And then they also created lesson plans for 2 stories each level. And these are very detailed ones. So if you read this, you will surely have many creative ideas on how to implement these books into your classes. There are warm-up exercises, session exercises, then of course, wrap up. And what I personally really like is that there are additional add-ons, differentiation ideas between the students, and self-evaluation, which I think is extremely important in the 21st century, that kids can evaluate themselves and their own progress and achievements. So this handbook can be downloaded from our website completely for free. I think you even reach every book in the teacher's handbook for free in the library. So you could take a look, you can try it in your own classroom, you can see how storytelling works in your setting, and then let us know about your experiences. So this is what we wanted to share with you today. It was amazing to see all these questions. I'm still like, my head is spinning a bit in all the comments. Now I think we can move on to questions. Until we are waiting for a bit for you to submit anything, I just wanted to say that 2021 was a very special year for BOOKR, because even though we've been working on this product for a few years now, last year we released this new version, and immediately we started to see the impact it started to make. We had new customers from Argentina, Peru, Spain, Indonesia, South Korea. So really we started to expand a lot. And we also started to get more recognized by professional entities. We won a couple of awards. We were acknowledged by Education Alliance Finland. We were selected as an official textbook in Hungary. So we keep moving forward, and it's not just that we don't stop, but we really focus on providing you something very great. Until the end of January, we are going to upload 150 new books, for example. In the next couple of months, there will be 100 other books. And of course, we keep developing new features to make the user experience better and the engagement of the students better. So thank you for joining us. If you can stay a bit more, we will cover some questions. For example, we received, I don't even know where to start because we received quite a lot here. For example, someone was saying in the registration sheet, I love storytelling, but I don't know how to use it in the secondary school classroom. Kinga, do you have some ideas? And then maybe we could also talk about lower levels, aged 7 and 10, since they have little management on the target language. So let's cover lower levels and secondary school classroom.
Right. I would say in secondary school, it seems a bit easier to use stories because students usually are more willing to use the language and are able to use the language. So I would say that these alternative scenarios are great for teenagers, or the project work, or even if it's a folk story, then just looking behind the story and learn a bit about mythology or the message itself. For lower levels, it's usually like the arts and crafts that are very, very popular. And this dialogic reading works very well when you narrate and they tell you what they can see. And you can use the flashcards with books. And if you check the website, we have activity tips for the books. So you will find many different ideas there on how to use them, like the whole story, and also extra ideas which are not online and not in the application, but you can simply come up with them. So make sure you check out the activity tips as well.
Thank you. I think the next question, it was maybe kind of answered because someone was asking for ideas for extending the story with activities and projects over several lessons to get the most out of it. How do you suggest to do it, Kinga? Are these stories, I know the answer, but are these stories capable or able or a good fit for extending them over a bit longer period of time?
I would say yes, definitely, especially if you like cut them in half And then if it's a new story, if it's not a classic and the students don't know, it keeps them in a loop. But it's also great if you just have a warm-up lesson for the topic itself, and then you teach some kind of vocabulary, you introduce the topic and the theme. The second lesson is about the story itself in dialogic reading or any other way of reading it, like you ask different students to work on different parts of the text. And then the last lesson can be like a wrap-up, performance, a product, arts and crafts, or something. So I think that most of them are great for at least 3 lessons, but it really depends on your students and also on you, how much you are able to put in there, because we have enough activities for you. For example, the lesson plans in the teacher handbook, they are built on 3 lessons, the way I have just explained.
Thank you. Someone was asking about the resources in the chat. We have many resources for free. For example, the teacher's handbook, lots of printables, and the activity tips. You can go on this link that I shared on our website. There's a site for resources where you can find a lot of tutorial videos and a lot of these printables. The flashcards can also be printed. And I really suggest you to join our teacher community because there you can also find some extra ideas. We always upload the new content there. And we encourage every teacher as well to share their experiences, because really what we want to do is exchanging ideas and showing your own best practices. You can use the demo version. I mean, there's a trial option available for 2 weeks with 5 students. So you can go on our website, ask for the trial, maybe even download the teacher's handbook, and together with the full package, try out the application. But even after the trials is over, you have free books that you can just use with no problem. There are a couple of questions in the Q&A too. How we can assign books. I showed you briefly. It's super simple. You go into the teacher's dashboard, you see the list of books, and then you just click on assign book. Or you can do it the other way around. You can select a student and then add a book to their account. But if you have some more technical or more specific questions, then really feel free to just send an email to hello@bookerclass.com, or if you have any other questions about anything, because we are here to help. I keep reading the additional questions. If the parents use this app, is there a support in Turkish for them? Very good question. So the application is available for students and teachers, so in a school package, but also as a family or a parent, you can subscribe on your own. And of course, if your student goes to a school and they have BOOKR class, you can also reach the app as a parent. We do have customer support in Turkey and in Turkish, because we have our Turkish representatives, Colibri Education, and they can support you with everything. If they still happen to be here, then maybe someone can drop their email address in there. But if you go on their website, Colibri Education, then they will definitely help you in Turkish. At the moment, BOOKR class can be, well, we have partners in Turkey, in Greece, in Spain, in Argentina, Peru, Indonesia. So you can there contact local people, but of course we are there too. Yes. Do you have anything else? Any other questions maybe?
Now let us share some links for you for the free trial for the teacher's handbook, so that you can get some free ideas for the teacher community on Facebook, where we are, and my colleague Shara is the admin there. So you can see what we are working on and what the other teachers are working on in their classrooms. We will share the link of the Winter Warmer Conference if you would like to engage in some more professional development. And what else do we have there? Oh, the trial request, of course. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for the feedback. I really appreciate all the thank you notes you have sent us.
Thank you so much. Yes, that's about it. We were extremely thrilled to have you all here. We really hope to see you again in our teacher community or in the emails. We would like to keep interacting with you. And Kinga mentioned the winter warmer, but we're definitely going to have another webinar session around March, April. We are planning one webinar at least a quarter. We would like to introduce some new topics, some new approaches as well. So stay with us, follow us on social media, and let us know if you have any feedback. Thank you.
Because we have the survey. And then
we have the survey. Yes.
You can give the special requests there. So please complete the survey and give us some feedback on the session. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening or day and weekend.
Thank you. Have a nice day, everyone. Bye-bye.